In chapter 24 of Northanger Abbey, we continue the situation with Catherine Morland being highly suspicious of the general. He makes her nervous. She's carrying the suspicion that he's guilty of having somehow done something to his wife. That's Henry and Eleanor and Frederick's mother. The Abbey is contributing to this description of him as an evil person because of its size and the way it relates to the mysteries of Udolpho. She's devised a plan that she's going to investigate the house. She's doing it without permission. She notices a forbidden door, which is apparently Mrs. Tilney's room. She gets into the room and she's looking around in there and she's trying to secure evidence of wrongdoing on behalf of the general, and lo and behold, Henry catches her in the act. She's like startled, and Henry is kind of like trying to compute the situation by trying to figure out why exactly she's in there. He's like, Eleanor must have really been saying some wonderful things about my mother for you to be in here. And Catherine's like, yeah, that's what I was doing. And then he really starts to put two and two together, and he's like, what is it that you're trying to suggest here? And it invariably falls to the subject of his father, and she's like put on the spot with his direct confrontation of her and the notion that somehow his father was responsible for her death. He tears into her with the facts that he and Frederick were actually there. There was a doctor that came and took care of her. She had all the care that would have been necessary. It was said that she had a fever. It came on really fast. And he implies kind of that he's a little kind of ashamed of Catherine for coming up with this wild conjecture that his father was somehow a conniving, murderous person. Catherine just automatically, she's gone. She's out of the picture, and she's like in tears. One of the things that comes out of that is that he's like, how could something like that even happen? Because England is renowned for having an update system of society. He calls it a Christian nation, and he does talk also about, he mentions the word spy, which is kind of funny, but he just talks about the kind of society that they live in, especially in a place like that where there's so many intercommunicative situations going on with a house like that and all the people that would be involved. The notion of him committing a murder against his own wife would just be outlandish. In chapter 25, we find Catherine Morland in shock, and it is hitting her hard, and she's just like, reality is crashing down in and around her. She's in tears. She's crying, and it's affecting her pretty deeply. I mean, she's 17. In modern day standards, you're not an adult. Really, in some cases, 18 to 21. And even then, you're still young, and you're learning things. So at 17, the poor girl is just devastated by Henry's judgment and trial of her. She sees the influence of her reading of what's going on. We see the germination of her dismissive attitude against the novel in that aspect so far as Gothic novel is concerned, which is kind of an interesting point because we were just justifying the reading of novels of this nature, and we were weighing out the differences between what men read and what women read, and why they should read it and why they should read it, and why they do read it. One seems to carry a more compelling nature than the other, and here we have an explanation given as to why women shouldn't read novels, because now we have this girl who's been reading the mysteries of Udolpho, and she's developed this wild accusation against a man who's apparently innocent. Time passes and she's wondering about Bath now. Northanger Abbey is probably pretty beautiful, but unless you're a hunter or into outdoor activities or something, what is there really to do? At any rate, a letter arrives from James, her brother. Here again, we get more crushing emotions on Catherine. She's just really sustaining a lot of growth. She's feeling impactful things and responding to them. And here we learn that James is not getting married to Isabella at all. He has learned that the captain has moved in on his game. He's crushed about it. She doesn't know how to respond in the house where Captain Frederick Tilney has grown up. These are his siblings. His father's in the house. She keeps it to herself. She doesn't want to rile anything up. It's impossible for them not to notice that Catherine is experiencing some kind of more shock or some kind of shock. And so she just gives him the letter and she's like, your brother made the moves on Isabella. And then so we get this kind of interesting commentary on Isabella, and there are all kinds of words that come up in connection to her. What I've got is flighty and inconstant, so she's capricious and she's kind of not really stable, and her brother's kind of like that too, and it's odd the kind of upbringing that would cause this kind of behavior. It's just sort of like ultra social, but something's going on underneath that causes that social sort of persona to be present at all times, because there's inner shame and something going on, and it might have to do with the fact that they're not ultra rich. It weighs heavily on the way people think at that time. So whatever's going on with Isabella, she's just like, forget James, I'm going for the captain. One thing that Henry says is that he can't believe that his brother would actually be interested in marrying someone as flighty and capricious and unstable as Isabella. He's thinking, yeah, it was probably a one-night stand and it ruined Catherine's brother's life, but oh well, Captain's a stud, what can you do? It does boil down to Isabella, like we said in the earlier video, so that's the way that goes. Chapter 26 is not really that eventful. The principal three that are at the Abbey talk about Isabella's behavior, and they really don't know what to make of it. The general really comes into play in this chapter in that he's concerned about Catherine and her stay there and her enjoyment of the time. He compares the Abbey to Bath and how Bath has so much more to do, and so he's thinking about it too. What he does is he devises a plan to take Catherine to Henry's, basically his place of employment, where he works in a village down the road called Woodston, and they have dinner, and there is mention of the parsonage and their new puppy, which is a Newfoundland puppy, and there are 2 to 3 terriers. as part of the household. Chapter 27, however, involves a letter from Isabella. So finally, we are learning some information about what happened with James. We know that James had sent a letter, and he's like, I'm through with Isabella because Captain Tilney made some moves on her, and so I don't want nothing to do with her. And so now Isabella is writing to Catherine, and Catherine reads the letter, and she reacts to it. Firstly, we learn that Captain Tilney has no intention of marrying Isabella. What does that allow us to deduce, considering that James doesn't want anything else to do with her? Isabella admits that something in her conduct was amiss, and what she wants Catherine to do, she wants Catherine to explain to James whatever that she can in terms of how much Isabella misses James, and that she still wants to marry James, or that she can't figure out why James isn't talking to her. What this does is it creates a reaction in Catherine that she's just like, I'm done with Isabella too. While Isabella refers to Captain Tilney as a coxcomb, Catherine Morland refers to Isabella as a vain coquette. At any rate, the discussion about Isabella comes to a head where they all sort of come to a complete determination that she really is just somebody who's a mixed up, damaged person, but what they're describing her as being, unstable and capricious and flighty and flirty and just completely unreliable. Catherine Morland is like, well, I'm done with her too. Chapter 28 is a very tough chapter to get through. What happens at first is that we get kind of an admission on Catherine's part that the general has been pretty hospitable to her. And what happens is that she's allowed to stay for an extra 4 weeks, and it just seems like the totally right thing to do. Catherine's parents wouldn't mind. Seems to be the plan that should be the plan. There's really no reason why it couldn't happen. It's harmless, and the general then leaves the abbey, so it's kind of like, they got the house to themselves. They're kind of a little more at ease between her and Eleanor and Henry. But then all of a sudden, from out of the blue, the whole situation just gets turned on its head, and Eleanor presents Catherine with information that all of a sudden it's been decided by the general that Catherine has to leave immediately. Catherine is like, well, it's not so bad. We got 4 more days to kind of like feel out the situation and bond and really say goodbye to each other. And Eleanor is like, no, you have to leave like right now. Catherine is alone in her room, and she spends the night in there, and she's just like going over it, and she must have offended him. What occurs in this moment also as this unfolds is that all of a sudden the house takes on a different shape of comfort. It's kind of like the way we project our feelings onto inanimate objects, such that if we're feeling good, then the objects around us and the mood where you're at feels good. But now that she's being forced out of the house, all of a sudden her room and the house and everything, the view from the window, it all has like a different shape now, and it's like it's all turning against her. And it kind of happens to us too. We feel as if maybe we've done something wrong or the world is against us, all of a sudden we feel like the fan doesn't seem like it's very happy, and it seems kind of ominous, and the kitchen and the room has sort of a dark tone, and there's nothing good on the television, and the whole house just seems kind of gloomy, and we're projecting on to our environment the way we feel. And that's what's happening with Catherine, is all of a sudden the loneliness and the situation of what she's done is impacting her through the form of her conscience or her second self, our internal thoughts. She's internalizing, and then she's externalizing it all, and it's having a profound effect. In chapter 29, we have to think about what it must be like to travel on a long trip in a carriage where everything is bouncing around and we're not in a good mood. That's what's happening for poor Catherine, as she has been sent home by the general, and it takes 11 hours to get home by carriage ride, and she's all alone. But what happens is we see her being kind of resilient, and she's working in her mind on trying to figure out what happened. She wonders whether or not he found out that she was accusing him of being harsh to his wife, like accusing him of murder and abduction and things like that. And she's like, would Henry betray me? Because Henry was the only one who knew about that. And so she's wondering about Henry too. She's positive that Henry wouldn't do such a thing. It's really had to have been a very difficult moment for her to get through that trip. It's hard to really maintain a positive lookout on life when you have these doom and gloom thoughts about what's just happened and the harsh way in which she was treated. And there's that paranoia that she may have caused it herself, and so it feels like the world's kind of against you. So when she gets home, she is very, very welcomed, and everybody is very happy to see her. And so what we have here is the importance of family, and the importance of a support group, the importance of having people in your life, and the dangers of being lonely are all being looked at here, because it's all being smoothed over. The doom that she had been facing, and a lot of tears and humiliation, and there's all this different negative feelings and inner strife that have been created all of a sudden, partially on her part, partially on behalf of others. There is mention of her being altered from, when she had originally left to Bath. So there's this essence of growth that's being portrayed here. Mrs. Allen decides that she doesn't like the general, and there's a lot of antipathy that develops back at Fullerton towards the general for what he has done to Catherine. It was like a sudden act of inappropriate behavior. Nobody can figure it out, but nobody can justify it either. The general has created a bad image for himself in his actions towards Catherine, who seems completely and totally innocent and cleared of any kind of wrongdoing. She hasn't done anything wrong. In chapter 30, we see life moving on for Catherine. She's back at home. Everyone's happy to have her back. That's a good feeling. She's got her self-esteem rebuilding, but she's encountering a stage of depression now because she's had such a great relationship with Eleanor, and she's had a great relationship with Henry Tilney, and she suspects that he might be in love with her. She suspects that they could have done something, and now it all just seems completely gone. And there's a sense of loss that has formed in Catherine, and her mother notices it. And here we have reference to a book called The Mirror, which is like some sort of 18th century self-help book, I guess. However, one day we find that there's a visitor to the house in Fullerton where they're all back to normal. The visitor, of course, is Henry Tilney. He's concerned about Catherine. He's there in a very apologetic way, and he wants to smooth things over. I mean, what he really wants to do is marry her. And she's happy to see him, but of course, in light of what's happened with the general, they're all expecting the explanation. So what we have here is the presence of a culprit working in the background, and sure enough, if you've been noticing John Thorpe's ways and his behaviors towards Catherine throughout the book, here and there he's lied or just misrepresented truth. When he doesn't get something, he's not going to take no for an answer. So what he has done is we've seen him interact with the general. The general has interacted with him, and they have spoken in a sort of a social sense, and they discussed Catherine, and the discussion that she wasn't aware of them having was, of course, as everything boils down to in these Austen novels, the topic of money, and who's got the money, and who's got the inheritance, and who's got the land, and who's going to unite the families. John Thorpe has been talking about how Catherine Morland comes from a money family, and so bingo, hello, we have the reason now why the general has been being nice to Catherine all this time, because he thinks, well, maybe he can discern that Catherine doesn't like John Thorpe, but if he can set her up with his own son, then he's got himself a marriage that will unite wealth. John Thorpe has made these things known about Catherine in conversation. Catherine has rejected him, and so now Thorpe flips his attitude and he starts laying into how he's been lying about Catherine and that she doesn't really have any money at all. He's angry that Catherine feels unrequited love towards him. It's a love that's not returned, and so now he's experiencing full rejection, and he's experiencing resentment, and he is going to get Catherine to pay for that. And so he tears her down. She doesn't have any money. He informs the general, and the general's like, I gotta get this chick out of here. I don't know what else to do because I didn't know that she was just some poor rube. And that's the explanation for why he got rid of her so fast, which isn't much of an explanation, in my opinion. You would still want to be polite to people, but the general doesn't have that in him.
All that is left is to figure out how Tilney is going to marry Catherine.
And that comes through this weird, sudden side plot.
Now you are probably wondering about this man.
As it turns out, that guy is a viscount. He's loaded with money. He's got title, he's got everything. Eleanor marries him, and it's through this union that really perks the general back up into a good mood. He's like, well, I didn't do so well with Catherine and Henry. There's no money there, but a viscount, bingo, hello. Now I got Northanger Abbey tied into some title and some big money. I got a big fortune secured. Her marriage to him makes it so that she has more influence when she speaks to her father, and she's just like, just go ahead and forgive Henry. Don't hold a grudge against him, and he's like, okay, that's fine. And Henry is still like, you know what, I'm not that happy with your forgiveness. I don't really care about it. I'm gonna go find Catherine and propose to her. Catherine's parents are about ready to consent, but they don't want to consent because the general's behavior is this detail about not being able to get consent changes when the general learns that Catherine isn't actually as broke as John Thorpe had made her out to be. So she does actually have some money. She's entitled to, I think, 3,000 pounds a year if she gets married. So that changes the general's mind. So the general's like, okay, I'll consent to a marriage. And then her parents are like, okay, well, if he consents, we'll consent. It's always about money. Tilney and Catherine ultimately end up getting married after Eleanor gets married, and whatever happens with Isabella, we don't know. Poor girl. I think more should have been explained about her because she's a troubled person, but we do know that both Isabella and John Thorpe seem to be pretty much gone for good. Poor James, I guess, isn't going to be marrying anyone anytime soon, but I'm sure he'll find someone. So the story is tied up into a relatively neat bow. We do have, as usual, the return to the stratification of society and the need for women to marry into the stratus somehow so that they can care for themselves. We have a moment where Catherine is being asked by her mother when she's seen depressed. I understand it's kind of depressing that you lost your friends and that you miss them, but it's time that you get back to work. And so Catherine is just like, I don't know, I think it's needlework or something that she's doing. And it's like, that's not really a job. I mean, it's, you know, I mean, I'm sure she'll be productive around the house. I know that Jane Austen was productive in caring for guests, caring for her brother, caring for her nieces and things like that. So there's plenty of things to do, but it's not like what Austen finally encountered where she ended up getting paid for her writing. Catherine Morland, she doesn't have that, but you know, it wouldn't have been demeaning for her to marry Henry Tilney. She's single and now they're going to unite and have a family. So I mean, that's still something that's pretty worthwhile to have. Family is the institution that all humans need to build on to venture out into the world and succeed and you know, translate into ancestry and being successful and productive in society. It all is based on how strong your family is. What we've seen here, at the very least, is the strengthening of family. And lastly, we learn that the roll of paper that Catherine had found on the dark and stormy night was a washing bill that had been left behind by the servant of the guy. If that's not tying it all into a bow, I don't know what is. Remember that Book Time Learning is dedicated to the study of writing and literature. And I want to thank you for watching my complete and full study of Northanger Abbey, written by Jane Austen, and it was published after she had died in 1817.